Back to method cooking, cooking what you have, what you got, or what you can grow. Tonight we're talking about tomatoes. It's when you have that overabundance, which most people that grow tomatoes end up with, and what to do with them instead of throwing them away. So we've got some cherry tomatoes, some Roma tomatoes. We're going to slice them, season them, toss them in the oven, blowing slow, 200 degrees, maybe like 10-12 hours. Dry them out, almost like sun-dried tomatoes. That way you can enjoy these tomatoes for the next year. Now that tomatoes are sliced and on a pan that I sprayed pretty heavy with some Pam, we're going to put on some minced garlic. Obviously, fresh chopped is always better, but it's not always the option. We've got some dried thyme, some black pepper, some kosher salt, some canola oil that I put in a squeeze bottle just because it makes putting it out easier. And I put the garlic in a small bowl so I can spoon out small amounts and put it on each tomato individually. Now that the tomatoes are out, we're going to start with the salt. Just going to give that a kind of medium size to heavy pinch over the top. Got to keep in mind that as we season them, they are going to dehydrate, so you don't want to add too much salt, otherwise it's going to be very, very difficult to eat. Get the black pepper, just a few cracks over the top. With that oil that we've got in the bottle, we're just going to do a quick little drizzle kind of over the entire thing. We've already got oil on the bottom, but the oil over the top is going to help them kind of toast up. With the thyme in that big bottle like that, we're just going to drop a pinch in the hand and just a little kind of sprinkle over the top. We don't need a bunch. That dried thyme is pretty potent. So once we get that on, follow up with a little bit of that garlic on each tomato, and then we are into the oven. We've got the tomatoes sliced, everything spread out, seasoned with salt, pepper, a little bit of garlic, and a little bit of dried thyme, drizzled with some oil. You might notice that all the tomatoes are about the same size because we want them to dry out at the same rate. If you've got different tomatoes of different sizes, I would say spread them out and do them in different batches. That way everything kind of cooks at the same rate and same speed. So now that these are done, we're going to toss them in the oven at about 200 degrees for 10 to 12 hours, depending on your oven, and we'll see what we've got in the morning. Same procedure, same seasoning, but bigger tomatoes. So with the cherry tomatoes, we just split them in half. With the Roma tomatoes, we split them into quarters. If you're going into full size, like regular tomatoes that you see at the store, I'd almost do big slices just so that everything dries out and cooks at the same rate. And boom, 10 to 14 hours later, all the tomatoes are done. Pulled them out of the oven. The smaller ones obviously didn't take as long as the larger ones, so I pulled these out right about 10 hours. These were close to probably 13 or 14. I ran them at about 200 degrees the entire time. And now that they're done and kind of cooled down, what we're going to do is scoop up all the tomatoes, chop them up, put them in a mason jar, top that with oil, and with the oil it's going to cut off any oxygen that would get to the tomatoes. So having our own oven-dried tomatoes are going to sit and last in the fridge for months. So with the tomatoes on the board, we're just going to give those a rough chop. It doesn't have to be perfect because these are going to end up being scooped out for tortilla roll-ups, salads, like soups, garnish. You can kind of do whatever you want to, but the nice thing is they are absolutely fresh and delicious out of the garden, and they're going to stay with that amazing flavor when you use them months later. And with the last of the cherry tomatoes cut, we're going to get those packed into a mason jar. To that, we're going to top it off with oil, whether it's olive oil, canola, vegetable, kind of whatever you've got. The whole idea is that the oil creates that barrier, so they're going to stay delicious and fresh when you go to use them in a few months. As you start to preserve more food and put it up, especially during the summer when it's fresh, you want to make sure you use a lid or a label and put the date on it just so you know kind of when it was produced. So we'll throw a little 829 on there. We're going to pop that in the fridge, and then whenever we need a bunch of delicious tomato flavor, take out a scoop or two. Cherry tomatoes are oven dried, packed in the mason jar, topped with oil. We got the date on it so we'll remember when we made them. Make sure you follow along so you can see different videos, food prep, tricks, and ideas. Because these are so versatile, you can kind of use them anywhere, whether it's, like I said, salad, tortilla wraps, dressing, salsas. So we're going to pop these in the fridge. Make sure you check me out at method-cooking.com. Like it, love it, share it, tell your family and friends, and I'll see you next time. Stupid. Ugh. So the oven-dried cherry tomatoes are done, encapsulated, you're going to say. That's dumb.